record button, and we are recording. Uh, some bad news and good news about this webinar. The bad news for me is that so far, this has been my worst selling webinar since I started doing these 6 months ago, although I have to go back and look at the numbers again because, as always, there was a huge surge of signups at the very last second. So that always happens. People procrastinate. Good news for you is this. When I do a webinar on LinkedIn or on Facebook or how to generate leads online, they're always the best selling ones because people want the easy answers and they want the point and click solution to get leads. So if you're here today, it means that you actually take the extra effort to get up in the morning and go to a 7:30 breakfast meeting or take time out of your day or your evenings that you could be spending with friends or at home with family, and you're out networking. It takes a lot more effort to get out of the house, get out of the office, and do networking events than it does to just simply generate leads from the internet. As necessary as LinkedIn is, if you don't have that webinar, you really need to watch it because it's really, since the 2 times I presented it, I've got literally hundreds of emails and LinkedIn messages from people who are literally growing rich through the information they've learned on that webinar. But the flip side of that is I think you also need to be networking in person, and there are a lot of reasons for that. So what you'll learn today, if you were on the LinkedIn webinar, this is the only slide that is similar to what you've seen there. I'm going to show you why networking is a must for sales and career success. I'm going to tell you the networking mistakes that I can almost guarantee you are making as you go out and network. I'm going to show you the best and the worst networking venues. I've kind of given away the worst when I just slammed Lead Clubs a few minutes ago, but I'll tell you why later on. The worst networking venues, that's redundant. How to craft your 30-second commercial. This is something that I don't think I've ever been to a networking event in my life, whether it was when I was actually a salesperson in the 90s and early 2000s, nor in the past year when I've been a networking machine here in Dallas. I have not heard of one good 30-second commercial, and I've helped a lot of people to fix theirs. And I'm going to show you how to fix yours and how to craft a new one that's even better. I'm going to show you a stealth networking secret that we've discovered that we use to literally own networking events and write business on the spot. And then I'm going to show you finally a pro networking secret that less than 1% of people use that will explode your income and potentially change your life. And this is something, I know someone who did this who went from being a home inspector to a multimillionaire by using this one pro networking secret, as I like to call it. So why network? Why is networking such a vital part of sales and business success overall? Well, let me tell you the story of how one man became mayor of his city. Most of you know I'm good friends with Jeffrey Gitomer, my fellow colleague and sales author. And every time I go to visit Jeffrey, unlike me, he is a very early morning person. So he picks me up at my hotel at 7 or 7:15, and we'll go out to a Starbucks or an Einstein Bagels. And it's impossible to go anywhere with Jeffrey in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, without being interrupted at least 15 times. He knows everyone there. And I said, how did you do that? Is it because you're Jeffrey Gitomer, author of Little Red Book of Selling? He says, no, I'm like you. People generally don't recognize me. But when he moved to Charlotte, he didn't know a single person there. And so what he did was networked 15 events a week at a minimum. So 5 days a week, he did a breakfast morning networking event. He did a lunch and networking event. He did an happy hour or after hours networking event. Then on top of all that, he found out what bars and lounges the wealthy people and the business owners hung out at, and he went there at night. He didn't drink, but he mingled and got to know these people and made connections. That not only made him the unofficial mayor of Charlotte, but he tells me that's actually how he became the prominent sales author and speaker that he is. It wasn't through any other type of promotion. It was just by making so many connections who introduced him to other connections. And now he's got the 8-figure business he does today. The second bullet point is the obvious no-brainer. Networking gets you leads and referrals. Networking helps you find out what you need. I had been procrastinating on buying life insurance. I went to a networking event. I met a life insurance agent who I really liked a lot. He was very personable. He gave me value first. When I told him I was new in town, he said, call me anytime. If you need help with anything, you need to know anything about Dallas, just give me a ring or shoot me an email. And that was enough for me to make an appointment, and I bought an absurdly high amount of life insurance. And he's making a lot of money off of that, obviously. But the point is that it helps you find things that you need that you may have not known where to go otherwise. Your business grows exponentially as your connections grow. Of course, I told you about Gittimer and how that happened to him. New and unexpected opportunities will arise. A good example of that, yesterday morning, I went to speak for free at a local Rotary Club. Gave a presentation on how businesses can do a better job of marketing online. And actually two people approached me after. One person came up to me. He runs a youth entrepreneur group. So basically what they do is they go to high schools and they teach high school students how to start their own businesses. And it's such a successful program that some of them actually have their own businesses. And he said they've got a 17-year-old high school student, and she just hired her first employee. So he asked me to help out with that group and work with the other entrepreneurs and business owners who go out and teach these young people. And so right there, that's a twofold opportunity. One is to give service without any pay or compensation, because as I've taught repeatedly, that always pays you dividends somehow or another in the long run. And I'm also going to meet business owners and entrepreneurs and wealthy individuals who I can network with and find more opportunities to grow my career. You build value by making introductions. If you meet someone at networking group A who can benefit from the person you meet at networking group B, and you make the introduction, you become a person of value, a person of authority, a person who is actually giving before they're trying to get anything. And as I just said not even 30 seconds ago, that is the key to success both in business and in life. And speaking of life, you'll make new friendships for life, and that's a big deal. That's something you can't even measure in terms of sales or in terms of money. So if I do webinars on how to get leads on LinkedIn and how to get leads on Facebook, why am I doing one on how to network in person? Well, I am a huge fan of LinkedIn and Facebook for networking. I use them myself. Like I said, if you're not using the strategies in my LinkedIn webinar, you need to be doing that. But the reality is that 90% of business still takes place. Business closes 90% of the time in person. And a book here I highly recommend. There's no need to write this down because you're going to get a copy, both a video and a PDF of this presentation tomorrow via email. But a book by Ed Keller and Brad Fay called The Face-to-Face Book. And it's full of study after study and statistic after statistic that proves that networking in person is where 90% of business is still taking place. So there's no way around it. You've got to be networking in person and not just working LinkedIn and Facebook and the other online services if you want to really exceed and make a lot of money in sales. And some of the key reasons why networking in person is so effective. First of all, you can do a better job of impressing your personality and your authority in person. It's great to have a professional photo of yourself on LinkedIn. I recommend everyone do that. It's great to get as many recommendations as you can and endorsements. But conveying your personality in person is always going to work better than anything you could do on the internet. Part of that is dressing to impress. Being the best dressed person in the room and looking prosperous always draws favorable attention. I'm always the best dressed person in the room. You can use body language and vocal intonation techniques to convey authority. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that later, and also tomorrow via email, you're going to get my special report on the 25 PowerPoints of body language and vocal intonation that you can use to dominate any conversation or any meeting. And finally, you can talk much further after the event or even grab a table and have an appointment then and there. So opportunities pop up and you can continue the conversation then and there. We routinely find an empty table in the restaurant where the event was held and literally have a sales appointment right there, or we walk to or drive to the nearest Starbucks and do it there. It's actually funny because that happened recently, and the prospect I was meeting with said, "How is business ever done before Starbucks? Everybody meets at Starbucks." And I thought about it. It's true. It's before that you either had to go to one office or the other, but now you can meet halfway. So it's definitely facilitated commerce. And like I said at the Rotary Club yesterday, I not only had the invitation to help out with the youth entrepreneur group, but also a dentist came up to me after, gave me his business card, said, I want to meet with you. I want to buy your services to help grow my practice online. So the opportunities come if you know how to network properly, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we do, I want you to ask yourself some very hard questions. Are you up for networking? The first one is, do people naturally like you? That's important. Second is, do you engage new people right away? Do you know how to engage people in conversation? True story. I used to be very introverted, which my wife, who I met after I solved that problem, does not believe any family stories about how shy I used to be. She thinks they're all made up, but it's true. And one of the reasons I hated cold calling and found alternatives to it was because I was a shy, introverted person, and cold calling was very difficult for me. And then something more interesting happened when I became a best-selling author. If it runs the gamut from going to a seminar and half the people in the room know who I am and they come up and shake my hand and say, I'm a big fan of your books, all the way down to going to an open house and the real estate agent who's working the open house recognizes me and knows who I am. I was really didn't know how to handle that at first. And the funny part is, since I'm a huge fan of the band Rush, and have followed them, one thing I know is that those guys are generally the same way. They're very private. I've been backstage at a few Rush concerts and still have not met any of the band members, because even backstage, the band themselves are under a second level of security. So even the local crew and people like that can't access them. And so I was at a seminar with another author, not a sales author, but he's in the self-improvement field. And I watched how he reacted, and people walked up to him and said, I'm a huge fan. I love your books. It's an honor to meet you. And he would just shake hands and say, okay, it's great to meet you too. Thank you. Where are you from? And so I started using that. It was just the easiest thing. People come up to me and say, I'm a fan. And I just say, where are you from? And it got rid of all that uh, unease and sort of not knowing how to handle the situation of actually having fans coming up to me. So that is the question to ask yourself. Do you engage new people right away? And if you don't, you need to find something like I found, like my "Where are you from?" line, and then use that to start a conversation. The next one, and this is a big one, an entire section of this webinar will address this. Do you have a great 30-second commercial? Like I said, I've never in my life heard one that is not. The next one, are you a person who goes the extra mile and loves helping others? This is an integral part of networking. Networking events will open up and expose to you opportunities to do this. And like I said, giving with no expectation of reward invariably always brings a reward. Granted, it's delayed gratification, but something positive always comes out of it. The other question, do business leaders in your community know you? If they do, you're going to be racking up more sales than you can handle, and you'll probably end up going on to bigger and greater and better opportunities down the road. So it's a big question. Do business owners or business leaders in your community know you? If they don't, I'll show you how to make that happen. And do people call you when they need an introduction? Are you known as a connector? If you're not someone who is known as a connector, someone to go to when you need an introduction to an important person, that's a problem. And again, that's something that you'll learn how to fix here on this webinar. It's been long said. People always say it's who you know that matters. It's who you know that matters if you want to be successful. And that's not entirely true. Gitomer took that a step further in his Little Red Book of Selling. And he wrote the quote, it's not who you know that counts, it's who knows you. And so today I'm going to teach you how to get powerful people to know you, because that's really what it comes down to, is not so much to go out and hand out business cards at networking events, but to be the person who everyone knows. So after asking yourself those hard questions, if you said no to any of those, if you're not fit for networking, don't worry. The information you're about to learn will fix any no answers you gave to the questions I've just asked a couple of slides back. You're about to become a power networker and an authority in your community. So let's get down to it and start learning how to network for easy, fast, and plentiful sales. Now, before teaching you what to do, I've got to teach you what not to do, because in my opinion, that's even more important. It's a lot harder to fix mistakes than it is to not make them in the first place and not know what to do. So knowing not what to do is equally as important as knowing what to do, as I just said. Going to the wrong venues is one of the biggest networking mistakes. Leads clubs are a waste of time and a huge ripoff. Chambers of commerce are a close second, but there are exceptions. You've got to know how to identify which chambers to go to, and I'm going to show you how to do that. About the leads clubs, true story. One of the ad agencies who resells my search engine marketing services, one of their sales reps, against my advice, joined a leads club, and he paid something like $500 up front for an annual membership. And basically what happened is first he got the rules, and the rules say if you miss more than 2 weekly meetings in a year, you're permanently kicked out of the club, and no, you don't get your $500 back. So it's basically a scam because it's really, I mean, you can get sick, you can have a big sales appointment, you'd be on vacation. It's literally impossible for someone to not miss 2 meetings in an entire year, 2 weekly meetings. And then on top of that, the same people show up every week. There's no turnover. The nice thing about some of the venues I'm going to show you is you'll see different people at each meeting. But at the Leads Clubs, it's the same people every week. Everyone shows up at 7 a.m., bleary-eyed. They're still half asleep. And everyone goes around the room, says, I don't have any leads, I don't have any leads, I don't have any leads, and everyone goes home. And but they keep coming back because otherwise they'll get kicked out and they feel like they need to get their $500 worth. So here's my take on Leads Clubs. Having a lame 30-second commercial. I covered this already, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. Not dressing for success. I'll talk about this in the webinar. Not continuing the conversation on the spot. That's a big one. You need to know how to follow up properly, and I'm going to show you how, but there's something even better than that, and that's just moving into an appointment on the spot, whether it's in the same venue or whether you go to a Starbucks nearby and actually have an appointment right then and there. For that reason, you want to have your laptop in the car, things like that. Any sales, collateral, or order forms, things you need to do to create proposals and actually take orders. And of course, following up properly, which I'll talk about later on towards the end of the webinar. So networking venues are out. Or networking venues are in. Leads Clubs are out. They're overpriced. Everyone is there to sell something and to get something, and you see the same people each and every meeting. And I've just told you the true horror story of one of my own sales reps who works for one of our ad agencies who sells for us, and he didn't find out it was a ripoff until after he joined. And so that's why even when I wrote the very first edition of the Never Cold Call Again system back in 2003, I told people to stay out of Leads Clubs. And in the, I think it's now, I forget what edition we're in now, in 2013, it's been very fully updated and rewritten many times, but that one chapter is still in there. Don't go to Leads Clubs. Chambers of commerce can be lukewarm. Joining a good chamber or two is worth it, but you want to keep it to small, localized chambers. So good example is here in Dallas. There's a Dallas Regional Chamber, and they basically have celebrity speakers, huge events, very impersonal. It's just too big and too unwieldy. So I joined the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce. It's a small group. Everybody knows each other. Networking takes place. Deals take place there. It's a good group to be part of. And then they have a lot of committees. They have a lot of like subgroups. There's a young professionals group for people under 40. There's a quarterly networking workshop. I'm actually going to be presenting at one of those. So those are good. There's several more small localized chambers who have told me I can come speak anytime. I'm free to sell my books and my products at the back of the room. They don't take a cut. So that's what you want to look for. So the rule is stay away from the big chambers, but look for small suburban and rural chambers. Those are the good ones. Having said that, Leads Clubs and chambers continue to be tough venues because almost everyone there is a salesperson. You will rarely meet a business owner or a decision maker. They avoid those groups because they know they're going to be overwhelmed with people approaching them after and trying to sell them something. So it's a problem. So that's why these networking groups usually fail. But there is a networking venue. You may or may not know about it, and this is where it's at right now. And that new networking venue is meetup.com. And here's why. Now, I will tell you there are just as many bad networking groups on Meetup as there are good ones. They're going to be like the chambers and the Leads Clubs where everyone is there to sell something. However, the secret to networking success is to surround yourself with business owners and decision makers. And the place to find those groups are on meetup.com. Meetup gives you the most choice and the most opportunity to network. True story, real life example. When I first did a search on business networking meetups here in Dallas, over 1,000 results came up. So there is no excuse to not have networking venues with that kind of choice and variety on Meetup. So let me tell you why Meetup is so great and why the choice and variety is so fantastic. About 3 weeks ago, that's actually a typo. It was a noon sales meeting with one of the reps. And so the rep called me at 11:15 to say the prospect had to cancel last minute. An emergency came up. They're going to reschedule. I said to myself, well, I didn't put a suit on just to sit in the office all day. I need to go out and do something. So I jumped online, went to meetup.com. I found 5 different lunch meetups, or I found a lunch meetup that was within 5 minutes of a drive from my office. It was a new group I had never been to before. So I RSVP'd at the last second. They didn't even know I was coming because this was literally 30 minutes before the meeting started. I showed up unannounced, and the result, get a little drum roll going here. I need to get sound effects in these webinars. Showed up, newcomer, unannounced. I walked out with 3 leads and referrals and even found a provider for one of my needs. I walked out with 1 referral for my search engine marketing business. I walked out with a lead from someone who wants me to train herself and her sales team. I walked out with invitations to speak at 2 different local chambers and to sell my products at the meetings with no commission to them. On top of that, I even got ready to buy something. I found an ideal provider for one of my needs that I had been searching for a while. She and I set a sales appointment on the spot. She was happy. I was happy. I'm telling you right now, nowhere but at meetup.com, and more specifically, the right meetup groups, does things like this actually happen. So on the subject of the right meetup groups, how do you choose the right ones? Well, leads clubs and chambers, like I said, surround you with other salespeople, and this does you absolutely no good. Unfortunately, so do some meetup groups. But the good thing about Meetup is it's chock full of business owner and entrepreneur groups, and that is where your potential buyers are hanging out. Whether you're in B2B sales and you're selling directly to the businesses, or whether you're in B2C sales, if you're an insurance salesperson or a real estate agent or a mortgage broker or something like that, you obviously want to be working with wealthy individuals. If you're a real estate agent, you want to sell a $2 or $3 million home, not a $200,000 home. And these are the groups to find those kind of people. Your potential buyers are there. And on top of that, you'll be welcome. I've never found a meetup group that shunned salespeople, even though it was a business owner or entrepreneur group. Realtors and life insurance agents and people like that still show up, and nobody balks and nobody kicks them out. So go where the decision makers go. Now, when you join Meetup or you join any individual group on Meetup, you get to choose what your likes and your interests are. So obviously, business networking, that's the first and foremost. That's a no-brainer. Also, in that search box, type in things like entrepreneurship, business startups, business management, things like this. And then what Meetup will start doing is recommending groups based on the interests that you have typed in. When I prepared this presentation, I jumped into Meetup and I typed in business owners and entrepreneurship, and then I got this actual screenshot, and what Meetup came back to me with is business networking, small business owners, business entrepreneur networking, entrepreneurship, business owners, from business owner to business master, business social, strategy, networking, professional development. These are all groups where you're going to find business owners if you're in B2B sales, or wealthy individuals if you're in B2C sales. Even if you're selling things like high-end home theater, find the groups where the business owners are, because that's who buys that kind of stuff. So here are actual names of actual meetup groups that I've joined here in Dallas. Professionals at Power Networking Lunch, Professional Business Networking Group, growing group of 30 plus business owners. That's a prime one right there. B2B networking in Dallas, Park Cities Business Connections. By the way, that's my favorite group, the only one I'm an actual official member of. Speaker Co-op monthly Dallas meeting. Speaker Co-op is a group of 50 or 60 people who aspire to get into the public speaking business, and they're generally entrepreneurs and business owners who are trying to break into the public speaking business, which, by the way, has gotten impossibly difficult ever since the financial crash of 2008, and it still hasn't picked back up yet. So that's a good venue to find business owners and people who've done something noteworthy in their life and probably have made a lot of money doing it. And now they want to find out how to get into the speaking business. Then my other favorite group is the Glazer Kennedy Insiders Club. I don't go to evening groups because I'm a proud dad of a beautiful 19-month-old girl, and so I spend my evenings at home with my family, which sometimes is difficult because there are a lot of really great evening groups. But That group only meets once a month, and with the exception of this month, because it fell on my birthday, I did not attend. But otherwise, I go to that group each and every month, and I take that evening out, and my wife makes other plans with her friends and things like that. And I highly recommend that group. So look for groups with names like these in your city. I can tell you that's where the money is at and where the sales will be. Let's talk about something different. I know a lot of people on here serve vertical markets and niche markets. So if that's the case, go to their groups. I did a quick meetup search before the webinar to find groups, actual groups here in Dallas. These are all real groups. These are not made up examples. So if you sell products to law firms, software, or law books on DVD or things like that, LexisNexis, all that stuff, there's a meetup group called Free Seminars on Law. Go there. You'll meet a room full of attorneys that you can sell to. If you're an IT or if you're a CPA or an accountant, go to that second group, Technology, Business, and Finance Forum. It's going to be a room full of business owners looking to learn about financial issues and about technology issues. MBA meetup, MBA in a box meetup. Well, guess what? MBAs are typically business executives, C-level executives, vice presidents, or at least later on in their career. Many start out as salespeople, but go to that group. You're going to meet people there who can buy from you, whether you're B2B or B2C. So these are ideal opportunities to get in front of your ideal prospects, build relationships, and even speak and present your product or service, which I'll talk about shortly. Personal development groups. Now we're getting even better. I love personal development meetups. Why? Because they're full of people just like me. Personal development groups are almost exclusively full of business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, authors, people like that. Just about everyone there either owns a growing business or is independently wealthy somehow or another. My favorite personal development group, like I just mentioned previously, is the local Glazer Kennedy chapter monthly meetup group. My business partner, Mike, has been attending that meeting for 6 years. Just last year alone, he did $100,000 in business. Not $100,000 in sales, but $100,000 actual profit in his pocket from the people he's met at the Glazer Kennedy Insiders Group. Go to meetup.com, find your local chapter. Surprisingly, many cities do not have a local chapter. For example, my brother Dan owns a coupon business very similar to Valpak. They do coupon mailings, and I was going to recommend that he join GKIC because he would sell tons and tons of his advertising product there because it's already doing very well. And sure enough, he lives in northern New Jersey. There is no northern New Jersey chapter, so next time I talk to him, I'm going to tell him to start one because the only thing better than attending a meetup is owning one, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Another thing I recommend is the Business Journal. Now, most companies already have a subscription to the Business Journal for use by their sales reps. And as I told the morning webinar, I don't know why my PowerPoint designer put a picture of Tiger Woods in there. That's just bizarre. But unless that happened to be on their homepage when she took a screenshot. But the point is if you don't have the Business Journal coming to your office, get it. It's only $50 for an entire year for the PDF version. It comes out every Friday. Every Friday, one of the first things I do is log into businessjournals.com and download the new Dallas Business Journal for that week. The second thing I do is I go straight to the event section, which you'll find in the table of contents. You will find chamber events, speaking events, business grand openings, networking groups you didn't know about, and more. Business Journal themselves, they hold their own periodic happy hour mixers and business expos, which are absolutely fantastic. They tend to be more full of business owners and high power people than salespeople. So it's a great place to go mingle and make connections and meet prospects. And then another thing they announce on a regular basis are grand openings of places like business banks. Well, who goes to a business bank? Business owners do, CFOs do, people like that. So go to these grand openings. They usually serve food and cocktails and whatnot. They typically happen from 5 to 7 p.m. So go there, mingle, and be personable. Don't be a stiff business person. Just lay back and chill out. Be sociable, and you're going to meet some really fabulous contacts when you go to those types of events. They're just a powerhouse. Now, another venue that almost nobody thinks of is business owner seminars. Now, I told you to go to the business owner meetup groups. Taking it a step further, go to business owner seminars. Now, these could be anything from half-day seminars presented at local chambers or by local organizations, all the way to full-blown 3-day seminars. True story. I'm sure at least one person on the call is in the credit card processing business. That's a tough business. It's extraordinarily competitive, and it's a commodity product, so it's hard to sell. So guess where I found my primary credit card processor? Well, my rep made a goal. He got a job selling merchant accounts, credit card processing, saw how difficult it was, so he put together a game plan that he would attend as many business owner and marketing seminars as possible. That's where I met him. He was already well networked by the time I started attending marketing and business owner seminars. We hit it off. He signed me up, and I started processing all of my credit card volume, which happens to be very high, exclusively through him. Since then, he's left that company, and now that he's no longer my rep, I switched processors and went to a place with lower rates. I was willingly paying higher rates because I liked him so much. I liked that he was well connected within my circle of people who I deal with. But when he left the company, I left them, and I left the company as well and went to a different processor. And I lost my great sales rep, but I'm back to enjoying super low rates again, so I can't complain. And one tip about going to these seminars, if you're going to go to a business owner seminar or a marketing seminar, I do advise that you spend 50% of your time sitting in the audience, because you need to know business owner lingo, how they think, how they talk, what their fears and challenges and problems are. But the networking takes place out in the hotel lobby, and it takes place at the bar at night. And I've even had opportunities and made connections sitting in the airport shuttle on Sunday afternoon after the seminar ended, going back to the airport. So the networking takes place just about everywhere except in the seminar room. So keep that in mind. That's not the place to spend all of your time, since you're listening to speakers and you're not even allowed to talk to each other anyway. Then bars and happy hours. Have I lost my mind? No, you can network and get deals in bars. When I moved to Phoenix in 2000, I knew absolutely no one there. I sold business phone systems at the time, so I found out where the heavy hitters and the business owners went to after work. And the feedback I got, it was at Houston's restaurant in a Class A office complex called the Camelback Esplanade in Phoenix. I got there not every day, but at least 2 to 3 days a week, generally Wednesday through Friday when it was busiest. Thursday and Friday are the best days in these kind of places, by the way. I'd get there at 4:45 to get my seat at the bar, order my club sandwich. Didn't drink because I was there to do business and make friends. And the reality is that simply by going to Houston's and sitting at the bar from 5 to 7 p.m. on Thursdays and Fridays, I sold multiple business telephone systems while my colleagues were out killing themselves cold calling and trying to figure out why they couldn't pay their bills at the end of the month. So find out where the power players go to happy hour. In Phoenix, it was Houston's. For anybody who lives in Orange County, when I lived in Newport Beach, it was at the bar at Fleming's Steakhouse in Newport Beach at Fashion Island. Fashion Island. So those are just a couple of examples where the business takes place. And find out where those places are. One tip, like I said, don't drink, but if you must, stop at one or two. Typically, I'd go there, I'd make some connections. Maybe I wouldn't. It's always hit and miss. And finish my club sandwich. And when I was within 15, 20 minutes of heading home, I'd have my whiskey sour, and then I'd head home and just kind of revel in the new leads and connections I made. I also made a lot of friends that way, got invited to parties, and made a lot of friends really, really quickly, even though I was brand new and did not know one solitary single soul in that city when I moved there. Now, here's the other thing I did when I moved to Phoenix in 2000, as well as Dallas here when I relocated last year. Civic and political groups. I already mentioned Rotary clubs. Rotary clubs are big. They're getting increasingly difficult to get into, to speak at. The reason is because of people like me and Gittimer who keep telling you to speak at Rotary clubs. And so what's going on is they're starting to turn away more and more people because they're tired of salespeople asking to speak. A lot of them have a closed door policy where you must be a Rotarian in order to speak at Rotary clubs. So I am actually going to join Rotary Club, but it's less for that reason and more because I've actually loved going to these meetings. They're full of fabulous people. Just find one that suits you. You can go to their website. There's a directory. Since I'm younger, I just turned 40 this year. I gravitate toward groups with younger people, and I've just found one. In fact, the one I spoke at yesterday was one, but it was just too far away to be practical for me to join. So find a group that suits you. If and when you do get invited to speak, don't sell. I've said this a million times. Never give a sales pitch. Give useful information. To make matters worse, if you do give a sales pitch at a Rotary Club, you will be banned for life from ever speaking at Rotary again. Chambers of Commerce, on the other hand, go to the small, like I said, the suburban and the rural chambers. They'll be happy to have you speak because they're at a shortage of speakers. At chambers, you're obviously allowed to sell. That's what a Chamber of Commerce is all about. It's got commerce right in the name, and commerce means buying and selling. And as Gitomer and myself have both said repeatedly, neither of us have ever spoken for free without getting paid somehow. Whether it was making a new connection that led to business, whether it was closing business on the spot, whether it was like yesterday morning, the dentist who walked up to me after and said, I'd like to buy your services. It always pays off. The other big thing, and this is how I really got connected in Phoenix. In fact, many of my, when I moved to Phoenix in my late 20s, many of my friends are now in the state legislature. One is the Secretary of the Treasury for the state of Arizona. And these are all people I met. He's even younger than I am, by the way. And you meet a lot of connected people. You meet a lot of power players, a lot of business owners. Go to political clubs. So it's pretty simple. If you're under 40, join the Young Democrats or the Young Republicans, depending on your affiliation in your city. If you're over 40, find out what the equivalent group is. Just get online and start searching for what the political clubs are in your area. And again, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever your political leaning is, find the right group and join it. Of course, I'm talking in U.S. terms. In other countries, you might be Conservative Party, Labor Party, Liberal Party, all depending on where you're located. So find the one that suits you, and you will make some incredible connections as well as some great friendships at those groups. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts of what to do once you've found the groups. That's all about the 30-second commercial. And since I have yet in my life to hear a 30-second commercial that was any good, I would bet my life savings that yours probably sucks. So let's start fixing that. Nearly all people who fail at networking fail because they do not have a great introduction or a great 30-second commercial. Nearly all groups, if not 100% of them, begin with having everyone stand up, go around the room, and give their 30-second commercial. By the way, it needs to be 30 seconds because a lot of groups, I know the chamber has a timer and a big bomb sound goes off at the 30-second mark, and then you're done and you have to sit down even if you didn't finish. So ask yourself, does your 30-second commercial make people yawn and avoid you? Or does it get people lining up to speak with you after the event, asking to meet with you after the fact, asking to take you out to lunch to speak with you further? Because mine does. And you've got to have a commercial that does that. So let me give you an example. SEO companies and web designers, because I happen to own an SEO company. There are a dime a dozen nowadays. I've seen, I don't know how many SEO agencies and web designers stand up at a networking event, say, we do search engine optimization and rank websites #1 on Google, and then everyone yawns at that and they walk out empty-handed. I came up with a very different 30-second commercial for my SEO company, but before I tell you what it is, let me tell you some of the guidelines. And this happens to be my favorite slide in the commercial because there's one of my favorite movies right there. You're going to make them an offer you can't refuse. That's the secret to a 30-second commercial. Make them an offer they can't refuse. That's really what it comes down to. Very, very simple. I'm going to write the name of a book in a box here. I've recommended this over and over and over again. It's called The Irresistible Offer by Mark Joyner. If you don't have the book, shame on you. Go to Kindle, go to Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, however you prefer to buy books, and just buy it, read it. Just read the whole thing tonight if you can, because it's going to teach you how to make an offer that people can't refuse. Mark is a genius when it comes to marketing. I've learned so much from him and thank him for that. And a lot of my knowledge, particularly about how to write a good 30-second commercial, is from what I learned from Mark and from his books. And after you read that book, read his follow-up books because you're going to learn even more. So here's how to construct a valid 30-second commercial that will get sales quickly and easily for you. First is you want to open with a question. Get them either thinking or already saying yes to you. So if you're a CPA or a tax attorney or a tax resolution firm, if you're in the tax business, your 30-second commercial must not say, my name is so-and-so and I'm a CPA. If you need bookkeeping or tax preparation, call me, because that's what every CPA I've ever seen at a networking group says. Stand up and say, I have a question for everyone. Please answer yes or no. Would you like to pay less money in taxes this year? And invariably, the entire group says yes. So it's like the old yes ladder theory in sales. Get people saying yes before you even get into your presentation. Follow that up by giving your name and your company name, and then knock their socks off with a value statement and offer they cannot refuse. Now, finally, after all the suspense, here is my 30-second commercial that business owners absolutely cannot refuse. It's a duplicate slide there I forgot to delete. All right, so here it is. Here's what happens when I show up at a networking event, and if any of my reps show up at a networking event, they use a similar one. I stand up and I say, everyone here, do you need more leads and more business? I already know the answer is yes. That's exactly why you're here today. My name is Frank Roboskis, and I'm best known as the author of a book called Never Cold Call Again, and I have been training sales teams for 10 years on how to generate endless leads without cold calling. But my day job is running a company here in Dallas called ROI Media, and what we do is very simple. We turn your website into a printing press for leads and a printing press for money. We've done it for huge clients like Travelocity and Cafe Press. We've done it on down to local plumbers, roofers, law firms, and we can do the same for you. So if your website isn't literally printing money for you, come talk to me after. Now let's take a look at this 30-second commercial. First of all, it gets everyone saying yes, and then it makes an irresistible offer. We turn your website into a printing press for money. Who can say no to that? And for me personally, it serves a twofold purpose. I not only get people who want to buy my internet marketing services from ROI Media, but occasionally there's a business owner or a sales director there who comes up after and says, I need sales training. I need you to come out. My sales reps are absolutely terrible. Someone needs to teach them how to sell. So I also get business that way. So I've really got two value messages in here and two commercials built into one. So it's very beneficial for me. So what is the result of this? I do this 30-second commercial, and what happens is after the event is over and the 30-second commercials are over and it's time to get up and mingle, people literally line up to talk with me, and it's not because I'm the author of Never Cold Call Again. Most people don't know who I am, and actually saddens me. Most people don't even know who Gitomer is, so they need to get off their ass and start educating themselves or reading sales books. So people line up to talk to me, and the first thing they say almost always is, hey, Frank, tell me more about that printing money thing. That gets their attention fast because nobody can resist that. That is a true irresistible offer. I open with a question that gets a yes. Like I said, before giving my real pitch, I give myself additional opportunities by mentioning that I am a best-selling author who trains sales teams, and then I make the irresistible offer. I don't say something boring like we rank your website #1 on Google that makes people yawn. I tell them we can get your website to print money for them. I don't know anyone who can resist the appeal of printing money. That goes without saying. And so it's a matter of crafting a commercial that works. So here's another example I want to give you. I've got here in my presenter notes. I heard someone at a meetup group who sells custom clothing for men. What she did, actually, I'm going to address that later because I want to tell you a little story first about dressing for success. So let's go through this part of the presentation first. Dressing for success is key at networking events. One of the reasons I do so well at networking events is because I attract favorable attention before giving my commercial by being the best dressed person in the room without exception. And it's not what I'm wearing as much as the effect that clothes have on my personality. And if you have my Never Cold Call Again system, you see the chapter I reprinted from Napoleon Hill's Law of Success. The book first came out in 1925, so the copyright is long expired, so I was able to do that without getting in trouble. And in The Psychology of Good Clothes, Napoleon Hill, he talks about how he went into debt for good clothes to secure success later on. And it's all about how good clothes, it's not so much about the impression it makes on others, it's about what it does for yourself and your self-confidence, and makes you so much more effective of a salesperson by dressing so well that you feel like $1,000,000. As he said in the book, of course, this was written in the 20s. He said when he puts on his good clothes, he feels as rich as Rockefeller, even if he doesn't even have a nickel in his pocket. Uh, Another great book I've read that I highly recommend, and again, no need to write this down because you're going to get a copy after the fact, in a book called The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. His advice on buying good clothes and dressing for success is have a rule to start spending twice as much money while buying half the amount of clothing, because you're not only going to get better clothes, but they're going to last a lot longer. My two favorite suits, one's 10 years old, one is 14 years old, but because they're high-end handmade suits, they still look like the day I bought them. Uh, and on top of that, because I'm quite a bit heavier than I was 14 years ago, uh, the higher end suit manufacturers put in miles of extra fabric so the things can be adjusted as you gain weight for the rest of your life, whereas cheap suits don't do that. Now, having said that, you don't have to spend a lot to dress like $1,000,000. So here's another true story. About 6 months ago, there's a custom clothing shop here in Dallas. Their suits are about $3,200, $3,300 each, but they had a Groupon offer for a 2-for-1. I said, great, well, that's not a bad deal. I get two $3,000 suits for the price of one. So I did it, and I got the suits, and I like them. And then to finish out buying up some new stuff, I went to the Saks Fifth Avenue outlet store. It's called Off Fifth. I bought two suits for $350 each, very high quality stuff that was originally sold in Saks Fifth Avenue. It worked its way down to the outlet store, and then they also had a 2-for-1 sale. So I got two $350 suits for the price of one on clearance. Took that to the very best alteration shop here in Dallas, and for another $200, he made them look even better than the custom suits that I had spent much, much more money for. So for less than $1,000, I have two suits that fit better, that I like better, uh, and that I wear more often than those two $3,000 plus custom suits. So if you know how to buy clothes, it goes to show that you don't have to spend a lot of money, because that's the first objection I hear. People say, Frank, I can't afford to dress like you. And I show them, well, here's a little trick. You can dress just like me, because the suit I'm wearing now, it was $350. Let me show you where to get one. So the psychology of good clothes, now I can get more into that. This is quoted directly from The Law of Success. And for those of you who don't know, before Napoleon Hill's books were published, Andrew Carnegie set him out on the 20-year task of finding the secret to success by interviewing the 500 wealthiest people at the time back in the 1910s and 1920s. And so to make a living while he was doing that, because Carnegie did not compensate him for his 20 years of work, as he worked as a sales trainer, very much as I do today. And here's what he said. He said, I have seen a few well-dressed people who made no outstanding records as salesmen, but I have yet to see the first poorly dressed man who became a star producer in the field of selling. I have studied the psychology of clothes for so long, and I have watched its effect on people in so many different walks of life, that I am fully convinced that there is a close connection between clothes and success. And he talks in the book about how he went into debt to buy good clothes, and it paid dividends later, because it was actually wearing a suit he couldn't afford and went into debt to buy that got him his first publishing contract, because it created favorable attention on the publisher. By making him feel like $100, he came across like a Donald Trump would, with that much confidence. And then there's the story of Edwin Barnes. Edwin Barnes was the business partner of Thomas Edison, the only business partner Edison ever had. And it was Barnes's lifelong dream to become the business partner of Edison. And when he first arrived at the Edison offices to announce that he'd come to go into business with Edison, he was laughed at and mocked by everyone in the company except Edison himself, who later said that he saw something in his conviction and in his eyes and just the fierceness of his determination that Edison gave him a shot. But he said that experience damaged him a little bit. He had an insecurity complex about his clothes after that. So he ended up buying 31 suits, the highest end suits. They probably cost $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in today's dollars. And he had 31 suits and never wore the same suit twice in 1 month. And he said to Hill that Hill jokingly jokingly said to Barnes, "I'd love to have some of these extra suits if you don't need some." And Barnes said, "There isn't one suit in that closet I don't need." And he went on to explain how the psychology of good clothes has worked for him. The other big part is social dynamics, how to use body language, and how to use vocal intonation properly. So I'm not going to spend much time on this here because tomorrow, when you get the webinar replay and the PDF via email, you're also going to get a PDF report that I've written up. It is entitled My 25 PowerPoints of Using Social Dynamics to Dominate Conversations, Dominate Sales Appointments, and Be a Person of Power. So just to go over a few brief pointers right now. The first one is slow down. I was coaching a sales rep a few years ago, and he talked like this. He was a great salesperson, but he'd get too excited and talk fast. And so the first thing I taught him was slow down. Talking fast gives the impression that you're afraid the prospect is going to cut you off. And so you're trying to talk really quickly to get your message across before that happens. So when you slow down and you talk very deliberately and articulate well, and you add pauses in your conversation and things like that, it shows an extremely high level of confidence. You won't get cut off by the prospect, and you won't have to worry about that happening. And in fact, I had him print up a huge piece of paper with big black bold letters that said "slow down," and he hung it directly above his telephone, and that's how he fixed that problem. Now, before anybody says it, the reason I talk fast on these webinars is because we have limited time, and I will literally get cut off by the GoToWebinar software. So I have to talk fast to get my message through. So that's the one exception to the rule. Avoid saying things like right or you know. When you say right or you know at the end of a sentence, it looks like you're trying to get the prospect's approval. So never, ever say that. End your sentences like this. Say, "Mr. Prospect, the bottom line is that we give you the best value for the money, and there's absolutely no reason why you should not buy right now." And that's how you want to end your sentences, not with right or you know. Speak loudly and powerfully from your abdomen. I always wondered how drill sergeants could yell all day without losing their voice until I got married, and my wife's cousin is a drill instructor in the Marine Corps. Very intimidating type of guy, as you might imagine. But he told me that what drill sergeants do is they speak from their abdomen. They speak from deep within their gut. And so that's how they can go through 12 or 13 weeks or however long it is of basic training with new recruits and spend 12 hours a day or if not longer with that type of a voice without losing their voice. So you need to learn how to speak loudly and speak powerfully from your abdomen. One thing I do just for fun whenever I go into a coffee shop or a Starbucks and order my coffee, um, I'll go in and say in a very loud voice, say, "Oh, what can I get for you, sir?" And loud enough that the whole room can see it. I say, "Yeah, I'm going to have a medium latte with whole milk, please." And everyone turns around saying, "Who is that guy?" Because it really transmits that much authority. And just try it. It's fun. Don't yell, but speak from your abdomen and watch what happens. Include intonation in your voice like I'm doing right now, because if you're a monotone, you cannot hold attention. You cannot keep people interested in what you're saying, and you will definitely not get anyone to continue the conversation after the networking event. So learn to include intonation. Like I said, in the report you'll get by email tomorrow, there will be a lot more detail about that. Always lean back, don't lean in. Leaning back shows that you're confident and you don't need their approval. Forget about the old mirroring techniques that you've seen in sales books from the 70s and 80s. People can pick up on that right away, especially someone like me who teaches selling. When someone mirrors me, I hate it, and I can pick up on it right away, and I usually call them out on it, if not for fun, but so to give them the advice so they could do a better job of selling in the future. The only time I ever lean in is to make a point. So when I gave that example earlier of Mr. Prospect, there's absolutely no reason for you not to buy right now. I lean in as I'm saying it to make a point. And when you're watching TV or watching movies, you'll notice that the bad guy in movies, when he's talking to someone, they always lean back to be powerful, but when they make a direct threat, they always lean forward to say it. So that's a good example of that technique in use. Please don't go around threatening people, but just observe next time you're watching a TV or movie with a good guy, bad guy situation, and you're going to notice that for sure. Make solid eye contact. This is very important. Always make eye contact when you're talking to people. I was with a rep. We had a booth at a trade show a couple of months ago, and he has a problem making eye contact. So I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go around to every booth at this trade show. And as much as I despise cold calling, we literally went around and cold called every booth in the trade show. Not to get business, not to sell anything, but specifically so he could practice making eye contact with everyone who he talked to. And he's improved quite a bit since then. It's very important. And then probably the most important thing on this page is chill out and lay back and keep it friendly and informal. If you're chilled out and laid back and being informal, even though you're following all these rules of being powerful, you're going to come across as even more powerful because that conveys confidence and belief in yourself and belief that people want and need what you have to offer. So always, always, always keep it friendly and informal and laid back because that will not only convey confidence, but it will get people to like you. And if you think back to one of the first few slides, one of the first questions I had you ask yourself was, do people naturally like you? And doing that will help. All right, now let's get into this really good stuff, my stealth networking secret. Bear with me while I take a water break here. Now here's the deal. All networking groups provide attendance or member lists. They do it in one of two ways. At the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce, where I'm a member, when you walk into each meeting, you drop your business card into a bucket. On the way out, you get a photocopy of everyone's card who was in that bucket. Meetup groups do it a slightly different way. They pass out a membership and attendance roster. So what happens as a meetup group, a list gets passed around. On the top half of the page, you're going to see all of the permanent members of the group, name, company, phone number, email. And then since you RSVP'd on meetup.com ahead of time as a guest, it's going to pull your information, and then you and every other guest will be on their name, company, phone number, email. So this is the key to my stealth method, but I already know what you're thinking, and I'm going to tell you right now, this method is absolutely, positively not what you think it is. Do not break the rules. It is a very, very firm rule at the chamber I'm a member of, and it's an official rule at most meetup groups. That list that you get is not your new prospect list. If you email spam or if you cold call the member list, you will automatically be banned from the group and not allowed to come back to future meetings. So this list is not your new lead list. You're not going to call and ask for an appointment. You're not going to email and say, let's get together and I think we can be of service to you, or any of that kind of sales crap. But instead, you're going to give them value for free. And here's how to do it. True story. The very day I joined the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce and handed in my application and my check, first thing I asked is, when can I speak? So at the meeting that day, at the conclusion, they said, we don't have a speaker for our next meeting in 2 weeks. Frank asked if he could speak, and now that he's a member, he can, because you have to be a paid member to speak. Guests aren't allowed. Not one person in the room raised their hand, and I wanted to get up and kick all of them because I was like, if you're in sales or if you're here to promote your business, to me, the entire point of paying $350 to join the chamber was to speak. I mean, that's what it's for. So their loss, my gain. So I got that next speaking slot at the following meeting 2 weeks later. So what we did was took that business card photocopy handout for a reason. And then what we did, let's see if Manny's here. Are you here yet? Yeah, there he is. I see Manny's here. So what Manny and I did was ran website ranking reports on all of those websites that were on the business cards, and predictably, what usually happens, the results were horrible. This is the typical ranking report for 99% of the people who were there, and there it is. 100% of your customers can't find you. That's a horrifying thing to find out. And here's the problem. Here's a little SEO thing. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Most people have no idea how poorly their websites rank, because what Google does, Google serves you personalized search results. So if you're on your website on a daily basis, guess what? When you search for anything related to that website, your website's going to come up first, because Google's cookies on your browser say this person likes this website. That's where they go most often, so serve it up first. But then if you pull an actual ranking report, many people who think their website is ranking number one find out it's really not even in the top 100 pages. So literally 100% of people cannot find them. So people are in absolute shock. And so here's what we did. We came back to the meeting. I catered lunch for everyone. This is another good thing if you can afford to do it. I use Jason's Deli. Most cities have one. They do great catering. Just order a couple trays of sandwiches and some sides like salads and things like that. The reason for that, when you speak, catering is optional. But if you cater, twice as many people show up because they all want a free lunch. So provide lunch if you can afford it. So what I did was I gave a 20-minute presentation. It's my standard presentation on why SEO is far, far superior to social media and marketing a business online. I'm going to qualify that by telling you that social media is an absolute essential for a salesperson. The reason I put so much focus on teaching salespeople how to use LinkedIn is if you're in selling, that's the place to be. That's where it's at. But if you're trying to market a business online, social media has proven to be a complete waste of time, and companies like GM and Pepsi have lost hundreds of millions of dollars from marketing on social media. Small businesses have spent thousands of dollars marketing on social media to get zero customers out of it, and everything in between. So my presentation was full of very eye-opening statistics and case studies that made people realize how lucrative SEO would really be for them. And meanwhile, my sales rep, Manny, who's on this call, was going around and passing out those horrible, awful 100% of your customers can't find you ranking reports. And when my 20 minutes was up, I said, how am I doing on time? The organizer said, your time is up. And half the people in the room protested and demanded that they let me, the organizer, let me continue to go on speaking. And I presented for another 10 minutes or so. And so the result is that based on seeing a presentation on the power of SEO, while simultaneously seeing that they had absolutely zero Google rankings, had people lined up to meet with us. And then on top of that, people who weren't at the previous meeting and who we didn't have ranking reports on hand for, they requested them. And needless to say, the leads started rolling in. So there's a key difference here. It's one thing to state the benefits of your product or service. It's something much better and above and beyond to personalize it. That's really, really taking things one more. And as W. Clement Stone, another favorite self-improvement author of mine, he always says, look for the something more and look for a way to deliver it. So you can use this technique at endless meetups. Most meetups, I'm assuming most, 100% of the ones I've ever been to allow anyone to distribute handouts. And good example of that is when I go to meetups, I print up a flyer announcing my next paid webinar, and I pass it out to the group, and invariably a few people sign up for it and end up on these actual webinars that you're on now. But personalized handouts are not seen as junk mail. They're appreciated. So think of ways and means that you can use this technique. You don't have to have a unique service like SEO, like I do, to pull it off. I've seen it done by commodity salespeople. So if you're selling a commodity and you're saying to yourself right now, I'm going to challenge Frank when he announces it's Q&A time that I can't do this because I sell a commodity, I'm going to change your mind right now. And here I'm going to give you 3 real-life examples of handouts I have seen at meetup groups that were maybe not personalized by individuals, but personalized enough to get the job done or to give a value message that separated them from everyone else. So number one, I had a real estate agent in one of my meetup groups. She passed out a color-coded map of the Dallas Metroplex by zip code showing where home prices are appreciating, depreciating, or staying flat. I was very happy to see the neighborhood where I want to buy prices are dropping because it's one of the more pricey parts of Dallas, so that excited me. Obviously, the big growth areas are the ones where prices are appreciating. We have Californians moving to Texas literally by the thousands per day. So the suburbs where all the new homes are going up, those are exploding in value. And so this is very useful for people. Someone might look at this and say, oh, geez, it helps to make the decision. Do I buy? Do I sell? Or do I just stay put and stay in my house now? And it helps her get business from people who realize they need to buy or they need to sell based on what they're seeing on that zip code color map. Another one was a mortgage broker, a handout with graphs and trends of how incredibly low rates are right now, about how if you do a 15-year mortgage, the payment really isn't that much higher, but over the life of the loan, you pay dramatically less in interest. Interest rates are like 2% for 15-year loans right now. And then he also included information because this is a business owner meetup about how, hey, you business owners and self-employed people, the requirement to put 40% down, even if you make $100 million a year and your credit score is 800, that's gone. Things are loosening up again. You don't have to do that anymore. So if you thought you couldn't buy a house, that's not true. Come talk to me and we can get this done, for 10 or 15% down or whatever. And he gets business from that. And here's my favorite. Life insurance is a tough one. I love my life insurance guy. He's one of the top agents in his company, but he has just a standard pitch. He stands up, he says, I'm with New York Life. Everybody knows what New York Life does, so I don't have to tell you. I'll tell you, we're the strongest company. We're the only one that pays dividends consistently. And that's what got my attention, because what I ended up buying was my life insurance plan, and then we did additional payments on top of my premiums. I forget what that's called, but my whole life insurance, after 17 years, I get to stop making payments because my dividends kick in at that point. So he did have some value in his 30-second commercial, but someone else had a better one, and I actually take it back that I've never heard a good 30-second commercial, because he could be using it as this, but the guy had a flyer that he handed out, and what it showed, he said, life insurance right now, there's a lot of uncertainty in the stock market. There's a lot of uncertainty in mutual funds. I guarantee you know multiple people who will be working in retirement because they lost their retirement in the 2008 market crash. But guess what? There's a better way to invest. Buying universal life insurance with the right company will generate a much better return than the stock market or mutual funds, as high as 6% per year. And on top of that, is completely safe. Then he added information that if you have young children, a VUL, a variable universal life policy, is the best way to save for college. Forget about the government's program with the 509 or whatever it's called, which, if you read the fine print, it's actually a tax scheme to extract more tax dollars from you. So I have not signed up for that. But he had bullet points about how a VUL policy is a fabulous tax-deferred method of saving for college. So here's how someone took life insurance, which is a total commodity product, and turned it around and showed it how it's a fabulous and safe investment vehicle, and it's the single best way, hands down, to save for your child's college education. And so I'm going to be going back to my insurance guy and buying some universal life for that reason. So now let's think about it. How will you use my stealth method? If the commodity salespeople I just showed you are using it effectively, so can you. Get creative. Use your imagination. Mine your company's website, mine their marketing collateral, go through all the sales training material you've received, and do that. Use that information to get creative and start thinking about ways and means to craft the right message. Another thing is the business journal. Like I said, the first thing I do is go to the table of contents, find the events calendar, and start putting things down on my calendar that I'd like to attend. And the second thing I do in my spare time is I email it to my Kindle. And my wife and daughter go to bed much earlier than I do because they're both morning people, and I'm a night owl. And so I sit up and I read the business journal, and I learn about the trends, changes that are going on in my area, new major companies relocating from states, high-tech states like New York and California, new developments going up, new buildings going up. And so you could take what you know about your product or service and its benefits, and then learn about new trends and new things happening in your area and relate them to that, and use those to come up with irresistible offers, offers that people can't refuse, to both create incredible 30-second commercials as well as incredible flyers that you could pass out at meetup groups. My ultimate networking tip, here we go. This is a strategy that someone who I personally know used to go from being a home inspector. He built this company up, because he's a smart marketer. He uses techniques like I teach. But then he started using this technique, and now he's a multimillionaire doing seminars with people paying upwards of $1,000 a month to come, or $1,000 per ticket, not $1,000 a month, to come hear him speak. And he just had one last month. It was a 3 or 4 day event here in Dallas, and he filled it up pretty well, even at $1,000 a ticket. So if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Being in the audience is one thing, but being at the podium speaking for free makes you the leader and the authority figure. And again, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Free speaking at Rotary clubs and chambers of commerce is a surefire way to build your authority and generate business. But what I'm teaching here today is not about free speaking. It's about something much better than that. It is about starting your very own meetup group. So the gentleman I talked about, it's been about 6 years, but he cashed in a lot sooner than that. He still runs the group to promote himself in his seminars and whatnot. But he went from being a home inspector, he started a meetup group, built up so much authority and following, made so many connections with so many high-level people. And by the way, his group is for business owners and entrepreneurs. That's who you want in your group. And like I said, today he's a multimillionaire doing seminars, and he's a paid speaker and a thought leader and all of this, all because he started a meetup group. So the process is simple. You go to meetup.com, click start a group in the upper left-hand corner, enter your location, and then type in the interest that will get you your ideal audience. And I won't go through that again here because I went through that in a previous slide early on. But you know to look for business networking, you know to look for entrepreneur groups, business groups, business owner groups, and personal development groups. And like I said, you type in one idea, and Meetup will give you many, many, many further ideas, and I believe you can choose up to 15 to describe your group. There's a screenshot of that Meetup sign up or start a group page. You just click on that. You go and type in where you're located and then all of the interest, the type of people you want to attract to your group. Then Meetup takes over and does the rest. It automatically emails out invitations to your new group to hundreds of people in your area who have those same interests. So a good example is only a few weeks ago, I started a Dallas Never Cold Call Again meetup group. I've done zero promotion for it. I will be sending out invitations to every customer of my Never Cold Call Again system who lives in the area. So if you're local, watch for that in your email box in the next couple weeks. But what happened even better, within a few days, I had over 40 members signed up, and most of them didn't even know what Never Cold Call Again is and don't even know who I am. And like I said, I have not even publicly announced the group. And every 1 to 2 days or 3 days, there's another sign up from people who find the group on meetup.com as they search their interests. And so the group has grown bigger than some of the groups I even belong to, and I haven't lifted a finger yet. And granted, Never Cold Call Again is a very catchy name, so that's part of it. But it's pretty amazing how much legwork Meetup will do for you. So having said that, it does a lot of the legwork for you, but your work isn't done yet. You want to grow your group, and you want to get more and more people in there. So just like you learned in my LinkedIn webinar, when you start a LinkedIn group, you invite all of your best customers first, then you invite all of your prospects, and then you invite everyone you already network and exchange leads and referrals with. So do the same thing with your Meetup group. Get all those people to join. Next thing you want to do is invite your email contacts or your address book, and there are ways to send out your Gmail or Hotmail contacts, or to export your Outlook contact list, or your Apple address book if you're using a Mac. And then the other big thing is to print up a flyer announcing the group and hand it out to other people at the meetups and the chambers and other groups you go to. Make sure you know what the rules are. Like I said, I've never been to a meetup that did not allow people to promote themselves and hand out flyers to the room. Chamber is a different story. The chamber I belong to, you are only allowed to hand out flyers if you are the featured speaker that day, and you can get kicked out of the group if you break that rule. So know what the rules are in advance, because you don't want to lose any groups after taking the initiative and doing the research to find out what the good ones are. So here's the next step on my ultimate network tip, and the most important one. You need to have a place to meet, because when you start a group on Meetup, they only give you a certain amount of time to actually have a live event before they cancel your group. So very important, find a venue. This is a lot easier than it sounds. If you've done the free seminars strategy, the free public seminar strategy I teach in the Never Cold Call Again system, you've probably already done this. Nearly all restaurants will give you a meeting room or a private dining room for free, especially chain restaurants. And don't be surprised by this. This is a no-brainer for them. They know if you're going to bring 20, 30, 40 people into a room, these people are all going to purchase food and beverages, and they make a lot of money, and it turns into a busy breakfast or a busy lunch or a busy happy hour for that particular establishment. So what you want to do is go online and just go to the websites of restaurants that are in the area where you've decided you want to have your meetup. Most of them have info on their meeting rooms. Pick the ones that you think will be big enough, then go out and look at them, make sure they're free. And then once you've done that, choose what your meetup schedule is going to be. So if you're going to have a meetup at noon the first Thursday of each month, go ahead and confirm that schedule and make sure the restaurant has that room reserved for you the first Thursday of every month from noon to 1:30 perpetually, and then you're set. At that point, you log back into meetup.com, you schedule your first meeting, put in the date, the time, and the location, and then everyone who has signed up for your meetup will get an invitation to the group. So, what are the goals in running your own meetup group? Well, first of all, you're not starting your own meetup group to run a 30-second commercial outfit where everyone shows up, gives 30-second commercials, and then leaves. You want to have them, but you want to have a lot more than that. What the goal in starting your meetup is to start your own meetup group to build your authority, your status, and your business. My preferred format is to have a 30-second introduction session all around the room. So everyone goes around, gives their 30-second commercials, and then you speak and you give a presentation for 30 to 45 minutes. Don't make it too long. I mentioned earlier that the GKIC group, Glazer Kennedy International chapters, that's my favorite meetup. That's the only group that I make my family man exception for because my nights and my evenings are dedicated to being home with my family and especially with my daughter. But there's one evening a month that I make an exception, and it's that group. My only complaint is that he generally speaks for too long. He goes on for 60 minutes, and at 8 p.m., there's a lot of droopy eyelids after a long day, and especially after a heavy dinner, because it happens to be at a barbecue joint. So everybody's eating ribs and brisket and all this, and rolls and whatnot. So don't make it too long. I think 30 minutes is good. The Rotary clubs give 20 to 25 minutes, and most of my presentations are optimized to fit within that. So I think that's a good amount. Plus, it leaves time for people to mingle and network after the fact. So in deciding what your topic, what your presentation will be, keep in mind it has to be a benefit to your audience. There are no exceptions to that. Whether it's about personal development, which is what the group I just mentioned usually talks about, or whether it's industry specific, make sure it benefits the audience and is not an overt sales pitch. So a good example, if your vertical market is law firms and you start a meetup group and you invite lawyers to it, something educational for lawyers, and you're a salesperson, you sell software to law firms, talk about how they can market their firms better. Because just as a student of my Never Cold Call Again products, you already know most of the answers that you can give them. So teach them those things. Make sure it benefits the audience. If it's a general business owner, entrepreneur audience, then the best bet is personal development. And you don't have to come up with all the content yourself. I'll tell you why in the next slide. Speaking of slides, slides or no slides, it's up to you, but I like slides. I could tell you right now this webinar would be a lot more boring and you would be a lot less engaged and paying a lot less attention if it were a teleseminar on the phone without a visual presentation. So I like slides. They keep the audience engaged, and better yet, they give you an outline for your talk. So you don't have to have index cards, you don't have to have notes or a teleprompter. Just use your slides as a reference, and that's your outline. And then, very important to build authority is getting people engaged, doing Q&A after, and asking them what they learn. So always do Q&A, take questions and answers. But better than that, the one thing that the gentleman I talked about who went from home inspector to multimillionaire by running a meetup group, as soon as he's done presenting, he starts pointing, and he'll point to me and he'll say, Frank, what's the one takeaway you got from my presentation tonight? When you do that, that really, really establishes your authority. So if there are people in the room, if there are business owners, if there are wealthy individuals, if there are partners at law firms, and you're a 22-year-old salesperson right out of college, and you do that, you're building authority, and these people are now looking up to you as the leader. They're now accountable. They have to show that they were paying attention and answer your question correctly. So even though it's an old thing that goes back to grammar school, it works extremely well in these types of situations. And by the way, get good at learning and remembering names. Go online, buy a course, buy a book that teaches you how to remember names, because it's a lot more powerful to point to someone in the audience and say, Joe, what did you learn from my presentation, than it is to just point to people randomly without using their names. And of course, after that, do Q&A. Take questions and answers. There will always be questions after you do a presentation. So on speaking itself, like I said, if you don't have enough content or enough knowledge, I want you to be out there going to business owner meetups as an attendee, and watching presentations, joining your chamber and going to workshops for business leaders, and learning the lingo and the thought processes, and what the challenges and worries and fears and concerns of business owners are. But until you get to that point, invite relevant guest speakers, or even split time with them. Bring someone in who can provide value to the group. You talk for 15 minutes, she talks for 15 minutes, and then do Q&A, or bring in a guest speaker and give that person the entire 30 minutes. An even better thing to do is to invite business leaders and dignitaries and others who can add value to the group, because that draws an audience. Now, I mentioned earlier that the public speaking business, the keynote speaking business, has really suffered, like really, really big time, since the 2008 financial crash and then the 2008 election. One of the first things that people or that major corporations did was just slash their speaking budgets. And so the speaking business has taken a very dramatic different turn. Most people who are paid speakers are now speaking at associations. What the associations do, they pay the speaker their speaker's fee, and then they sell tickets to get people to come, and they pick high profile people and best-selling authors and people like that, so that they could sell enough tickets to pay the speaker and then make themselves a very handsome profit on top of it. I forget the name of it, but there's a big seminar circuit that goes around the country, and then they fill up 20,000 seat arenas, and they pay people like Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and Rudy Giuliani and people like that $100,000 a piece. But then they sell the tickets for $100, $150, and then they walk out of there at the end of the day with several $100,000 in profit. So you can do the same concept at your meetup group. If you need to draw a bigger crowd, you want to get more people there to know who you are and to build authority. Make connections as you're working other groups, and making connections and working chambers, and Rotary clubs in particular have a lot of community leaders, political groups. If you join your Young Democrats or Young Republicans, or even a city council person to talk about how changes of government are affecting business. These always, always, always draw a much bigger crowd than a meetup group that is just the regular usual speaker or someone that people have never heard of. And remember, it's not about you, but about giving value. And so bringing in prominent people gives more value to your group. Give value to your group, word about your group will spread, more people will join, and you will prosper more, and more importantly, you make more sales and you make more money, and it keeps getting easier and easier. And of course, the rest of that outcome, you become a business leader in your community, you become a trusted authority in your community, you will gain power in a very good way. You'll be invited to speak at endless other groups, meetup groups, chambers, Rotary clubs, even businesses will ask you to come in and speak, possibly even pay you. And of course, best of all, like I said, your sales and your income will explode, perhaps beyond your wildest dreams, like it did to my home inspector friend. You will fulfill, best of all, I said earlier, there's a myth. People say it's who you know that counts. That's a half truth. Jeffrey Gitomer said it's not who you know that counts, it's who knows you. And having your own meetup group and being the leader absolutely, positively fulfills that challenge of it's not who you know, it's who knows you that counts. Now, as part of my ultimate networking tip, there's a little hidden opportunity I want to talk about. And this is something that I was just able to capitalize on myself. I want you to join as many meetups online as you can, even if you can't make the meetings. And an example of that today is Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I get I get about 10 emails to come to 10 different meetup lunch groups. Now, obviously, I can only make one, so I try to make one on each Wednesday, assuming my schedule permits. It does not today because it's webinar day, so I'm here in the office. And the reason for this is quite simple. Even if you have no intention of going to the groups, if an organizer leaves a group, Meetup allows 15 days for a new organizer to take over the group, or it cancels the groups and deletes it from the Meetup website. So here is your golden opportunity to take ownership of an established group. So think about that. I just showed you the time and the effort and the work. And it's really not that much work, but it still takes time to create and build up a new Meetup group. Or here's a chance where you can have one just handed to you on a silver platter. And on top of that, you become a hero to the members who don't want to lose their group. And you'd be surprised at how nobody steps up wanting to become the organizer and take over the group. Kind of like how I was floored that everyone turned down the opportunity to speak at the chamber. And I almost wanted to kick all of them and say, what do you think you're paying for? It's not to come here and give a 30-second commercial. It's to have the opportunity to get up on stage and sell to the group. So you're going to find the same thing on Meetup. Even if you've never been to a group, there's a good chance that you can take over as organizer because nobody else wants to step up to the plate. 98 out of every 100 people are lazy and indifferent. They're all out to get. They're not out to give. And so that's your golden opportunity. Following up, let's talk about that. Of course, the best thing to do is to continue the conversation there or walk down the street or get in the car and go to Starbucks. But if that's not possible because the person can or you can't, you have an appointment you need to get to, learn how to follow up. Whether you made your connections showing up at a business mixer, at a happy hour, or at your own meetup group that you own, follow up is key. And one of the chapters in the Never Cold Call Again system is called Don't Let Them Forget You. And of course, that module is about how to properly follow up via email. So what you want to do is get these people on your email newsletter list. Call them, email them, text them, whatever, and offer to meet them for coffee. This goes back to keeping it informal. Do not ask for a sales appointment. Do not say, come to my office. Do not offer to go to their office. Offer to meet at Starbucks. True story. When I first met Jeffrey Gitomer and asked him to give me some advice, I said, how is it that we're both New York Times bestselling sales authors and you make many multiples more money than I do? He said to me, your problem, Frank, is that when you're getting out of bed at 7 a.m., I'm meeting a power player each morning at 7 a.m. at Starbucks. That's the difference between you and I. And so this is what you want to do. Keep it casual. So like I said, call, send a text, email should be your last choice. But get a hold of them. Don't follow up with sales puke and call to set an appointment, with one exception. If the person was specifically interested in buying something, then do that. But even in that case, like yesterday morning, the dentist who said, I want to learn more about your services and probably buy, I'll probably invite him to Starbucks to keep it casual, give him a chance to get out of his dental office and away from his work. And on top of that, it takes them out of their territory. So now you're on neutral ground. It's always favorable to be on neutral ground or in your territory rather than in the prospect's territory. But best of all, keep it casual. Think Starbucks, not Warbucks. For those of you who do not have daughters, that is a reference to Daddy Warbucks in the movie Annie, which I think my head will explode if I have to watch it anymore, but I guarantee it will be on when I come home tonight. So that's my point. Keep it casual, keep it laid back, be a human being, don't be a salesperson. And here's a great tip I learned from my friend Andy Horner, who is CEO of a company called Ace of Sales. And I know some of you use that because it's growing in popularity with salespeople. Andy's stealth networking secret that he uses when he goes to a networking event, every new person he meets, he pulls out his iPhone and snaps a quick photo of the two of them together. And then later on in the day, when he gets back to his office, he sends an email with that photo embedded saying, "Great to meet you." This always gets a response. It gets attention, it's personalized, and it's memorable. So again, there's a quick tip from my friend Andy. Here I'm getting it mixed up with the movie Annie because it's permanently burned in my brain. To take a photo on your camera phone with the people you meet for the first time, then send an email that day saying it was great to meet you and embed the photo in it. And I know from results that this gets a much higher response rate. And it also fulfills my admonition to keep it casual and keep it laid back and keep it friendly. Don't be a typical salesperson. Don't send a boring plain text email saying, when can we meet, or any of that crap. So in closing, let's talk about what you've learned and the tools you now have in your arsenal. You know that if you're not networking, you're not winning. I have a feeling that everyone who's attending here, as I said earlier, this has been my lowest selling webinar because most people don't make the effort to network. So if you're not networking, you're not winning. Almost all salespeople have no idea how to network, so you have you don't have that problem anymore, so you have no excuse to not go out and kick your competitors' asses. Almost no one knows where to network. They're all going to leads clubs and they're going to chambers. You don't have that problem anymore, so you can go to the right venues. You can create your own venue and you can kick their ass that way. And literally, there are at least, I know there's more than this, I'm saying at least 10 meetups every single day of the week, including weekends, that I could go to that are within 15 minutes of my office. So there is absolutely no excuse for you to complain for a lack of networking opportunities. So I'm going to close it out by saying, now get to work and network. And with that, it's Q&A time. So bear with me while I open up the Q&A panel here on GoToWebinar. I'm going to send a private answer to someone who asked how they can get a hold of me. Oh, that's sent privately to you, Mr. Dillon. Someone asked about the recording. They have problems getting on. That will definitely be emailed to you tomorrow. You're going to get a full video recording, and you're also going to get a PDF of the presentation and my special report on 25 PowerPoints of body language, vocal intonation, and all that. Someone objected to what I said about how the leads clubs are kind of a ripoff, where they take your money, and then if you don't show up every single week for a year, they keep your money and you get kicked out. The person is saying that's called accountability. To me, there's a difference between accountability and just trying to get people's money. I think $500 to join a group is excessive to begin with, when the meetup groups are absolutely 100% free. In fact, my annual membership for my company to be a Chamber of Commerce member was only $350. So save your money, people. Skip the leads clubs and go where I'm telling people to go. Let's see here. Mark says, obviously you don't agree with the experts who say you dress to fit in with your audience to make them feel comfortable. I talk about that in each and every one of my books. That is a principle of social dynamics. You never dress like your prospect to make them feel comfortable. You want to dress just one notch above your prospect so that you have the authority and the power. On the morning webinar session today, someone asked me a couple of hypothetical questions. If I'm wearing a suit, my prospect is wearing a suit, he takes a suit jacket off when we sit down to meet. Should I do that to dress like him? And I said, no, leave your jacket on because you're still equals, but you're just a little bit above. And someone said, well, should I wear a suit if I meet with casual type people who wear khakis and polo shirts to work? And my response is, when I meet with someone who wears khaki and polo shirt, I wear a khaki and a polo shirt, and then I throw a lightweight sport coat over it. And so we're still dressed similar, but I still have that edge, that just little bit. And what you learn in social dynamics, the science of social dynamics, is you don't want to show up looking like Donald Trump and overpower to where you alienate people, but you want to be just one notch above, and that's how you remain in control and basically control the situation and get the sale each and every time. Steve asked, your slides look great. Do you have the email of the person who does them? I actually spoke to her. People ask me this all the time. And she has about 15 spare hours a week. So what we're going to do, and I need to talk to her and make sure that she still has that available time ready or available, put up a page on nevercoldcall.com where you can upload your plain text PowerPoint. Because what I do is I write up a plain text PowerPoint like you see, like most salespeople have, By the way, I'm going to type something into the chat box here. This is a free ebook. If you just Google it, you can find it. It's called Really Bad PowerPoint by Seth Godin. So what I do is I type up a really bad PowerPoint that's just plain text. I send it off to my designer, and a few days later, this is what I get back. So we're going to put up a web page where you can upload your PowerPoint. The cost to have the work done will be based on the number of slides, and then within a week or 10 days later, you will get a presentation back that looks like this. So keep your eyes open. I'll send an email out once that is done and available. And of course, that will be, again, based on her availability. So once her schedule fills up and she has too many jobs, we'll temporarily take the page down. Sharon asks, should the meetups you take over, I have an opportunity right now, be directly aligned with your business? I would say no, because like I said, being the leader of a meetup is a different ball game than going out to get leads and referrals. Being the leader of a meetup is a way to build authority for yourself. And then you can even restructure the meetup. If it was a go around the room, 30-second commercials, and then everybody pays their check and leaves, those aren't very productive. So I would take it and change it to the format I've talked about, where you do that, then depending on time availability, give even a 15-minute presentation, give a 10-minute tip on personal development, or give a 10-minute sales tip, and use that to build your authority, and periodically bring in leaders. Call your city councilmen, call your local state representatives. Those people love to come out and speak for free at groups like that because it gets them exposure. They shake hands, and in turn, that gets them more votes in the upcoming election. Let's see. Burke says, don't be disappointed in turnout. I'm not at all. I always can predict which webinars sell the best and which ones don't. And then, of course, people procrastinate. So based on the procrastination habit of human beings, there's always a surge of signups at the last moment. And then the other thing I've noticed, I see there's 45 people here, 44 now, for whatever reason, most people who sign up for these webinars only sign up just so they can get the replay. They can't make the live attendance. So the actual number of signups is usually about triple what you see in the room. Sharon responding, oh, come on, Leads Clubs are a ripoff. I totally agree. Thank you for that. Frank asks, typically how many people show up in person at the meetups? That's up to you and where you live. If you're in a larger city, more people are going to automatically get the notification on Meetup. If you're in a smaller town, less people. And quantity doesn't always equal quality. My favorite Meetup group, well, I have two favorites. I have the Glazer Kennedy group that meets once a month in the evenings, but then I have a lunch group that meets twice a month. And it only has about 20 people in it, but we become a very close-knit group. We work together very well. We've all become very good friends, and we refer lots and lots of business to each other. One of the companies in that group is it's a security company. They've since become a client of ours. One of the people in that group is a collection agency. He's about to be, or we're very likely about to become a customer of his to go after the people who credit cards get declined on our 30-day trial and they refuse to mail the product back to recover that money. And so it's a tiny group, but it's actually one of the better ones. So bigger isn't always better. But like I said, the more you get the word out, the bigger your group is going to be. Michael asks, does best dressed in the room require a coat and tie or maybe really nice jeans and dress shirt? Again, that depends on your market and what you sell. So for example, one of the meetup groups I've been to, or it's actually the one, that last minute one where I had an appointment canceled and then I ran out to it. The moderator of that group, the leader, is a roofer, and he wears a suit and tie, but if he were in a really nice shirt and really nice jeans, I don't think that would be out of place for him as a roofer either. So it's kind of up to what you're most comfortable with. I go everywhere in a coat and tie. It doesn't matter what kind of a group I'm going to, because that's just what makes me feel comfortable. But if you're uncomfortable in that, dress as well as you can and still feel comfortable and not out of place. Patrick asked, are the LinkedIn and Facebook webinars available? What's the cost? The answer is yes to both of those webinars. What I'll do, thanks for mentioning that, because what I'll do when I send out the replays to everyone tomorrow is I will include the links where you can find and download those. Mark said, so in dress, go for a little edge, not to the max. And yes, I would say that's probably the best case. Keep in mind, if you're going to groups where you have business owners and wealthy people and high profile attorneys, they will be showing up dressed to the max. So you may want to do it when you're going to a business owner group. Let's see. Roberts said, just to summarize it, some of the leads clubs aren't bad. Seeing the same people each week isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I would agree with that because, like I mentioned, one of my favorite meetups is a very small group, but we're very tight knit. But the flip side of that is that it's free, so I don't see any reason to pay hundreds of dollars to join a leads club when I can join a meetup group absolutely free, other than the price of my lunch every time I go. So yeah, there are some advantages to leads clubs, but why pay for them when you can get that for free on Meetup? Let's see here. Someone says possibly package presentation so someone could get before, like, real estate employees, life insurance presentation to be paid for by respective employers, charged so that you make money and your presenter makes money. Totally agree like that. Like I said, you can take ownership of a meetup group and take it a step further and then go into getting paid to speak and come out to companies and give advice on personal development, sales tips, and things like that. And I'm just skipping over. A lot of people ask the same question, so bear with me as I go through the redundant ones. Here's another question I'm going to answer. I think I may have answered one of your questions privately. No, I have not. Okay. All right, I lost my place. Okay, that is sent to you, Steve. Mark asked, have you done a Facebook webinar yet? The answer is yes, and I will send out the replay link. Michael says, excellent content. Thank you. Thank you for your kind comments. Let's see. Sharon says, well, how do you set up rules for meetups so it can be done there? I belong to one where no MLMers is allowed. That's up to you. I'm going to give you my personal opinion. Let me see what the clock says. We've got about 13 minutes before meetup or GoToWebinar is going to kick me off. One thing I really hate, if I show up in a meetup group and it's one person per industry and it's very structured and very stiff, I don't come back. I'm not a big fan of one person per industry groups. I think there are a lot of opportunities in meeting people who are in your same industry. Good example of that is when I sold phone systems. I sold AT&T Lucent systems, which were the most expensive phone systems you could buy. And so I actually made an effort to go out and find out the NEC and the Samsung dealers and the ComDial dealers. And I got to be friends with them because when somebody said, we need a new phone system, and I asked for the specs, and I say, well, it's going to be, I'll tell you right up front, it's going to be at least $8,000 from us. What's your budget? They say, oh, geez, our budget's only $5,000. They say, can you work with that? I'd say, no, but I know someone who can. And so I'd give the lead to a low-cost competitor and take a 30 or 40% split of his commission on that. So I have a big problem with industry exclusive groups, and I can tell you that my Never Cold Call Again group will not be industry exclusive. I don't see any benefit in that. My favorite meetup is industry exclusive. That's the way they want to do it. No MLMers. That can be good. It could be bad. I don't have a problem with people promoting network marketing. What I did have a problem with was when I was at a meetup group, and this particular group, it's a huge group, and each week a different member gets a 10-minute presentation. Everyone gets up and speaks for 10 minutes. And what one person did was put up a projector and played the standard stock ViSalus video. And that really pissed off a lot of people in the group. So MLM's up to you. I think I would allow MLM, but I would kind of put some regulations on how they can present, because I did not think playing the stock company video is very classy at all. Gregory says, what do you say to people who ask pressure you to drink without rejecting and seem like a recovering alcoholic? Get a drink, take one sip. just walk around with it and then discreetly go to the bathroom and pour it down the sink so it looks like you drank it. That's my strategy. Let's see here. Glenn said, being new to sales, I market a high-end product. How do I connect the dots to make this work for me when I'm just starting with very limited funds? I would take Gittimer's advice and go and network as much as you can. Go to breakfast, lunch, and breakfast and lunch group every day at a minimum, possibly an after-hours group. Like I said, the meetup groups are free, so funds are not a problem. That's a big reason I don't see leads clubs really lasting much longer when Meetup.com is phasing them out. So my simple answer: go to as many meetups as you can, meet as many people as you can. You'll start to make connections that way. If you're marketing a high-end product, I don't know what it is, but do business owner, entrepreneur groups where you're going to find wealthy individuals and do that. Christine said, do you restrict categories, only one accountant, only one real estate agent? Again, that's up to you. I personally don't like that. The flip side is that, like one example is real estate agents. I mean, Dallas is such a large metro area. We have a financial advisor in one of my groups who drives all the way over from Fort Worth. So I don't think there'd be a conflict of interest of having two people in one industry who serve two different geographic areas. And so again, it's up to you. I generally do not. Generally, I'm not a big fan of industry exclusive groups because, like I said, there are benefits in meeting your competitors, brainstorming, working together, finding out how to complement each other if you're in the same industry. But some groups do that and some don't. So let's see here. Someone asked why I do a paid webinar when there are free ones. That's how I make a living. So that's kind of a no-brainer. Let's see, redundant question. Let's see, here we go. Michael says, I sell business, internet, voice, and TV services, and I am at the chambers only for networking. I like these ideas and believe they will be useful even for this sales category. If you were to list the most important approach, someone asked this in the morning. Someone said they sell VoIP B2B phone systems. I think the approach for you would be to start your own meetup group. By the way, the cost to start a meetup group, I think it's $35 a year. So it's ridiculously dirt cheap. That's the reason most of the meetups are free. The organizers are happy to pay the $35 and let everyone come for free. I would start your own meetup group. I would invite business owners and entrepreneurs, particularly business owners. You may want to include, for bigger companies, telecommunication managers, because that's where you're going to find your big accounts if that's part of your market territory. And I would learn things that you can tell them that would help their business. Or I would invite people, like I said, invite city councilmen and state legislators, people who are more than happy to come and speak for free and talk about current events in government and how they're affecting business. Right now here in Dallas, we've got the 635 freeway in Dallas is a nightmare. It's currently worse than the I-5 or the 405 in Southern California because traffic is so bad, so they're converting it to a double-decker freeway. And so a regular speaker about once every 3 or 4 months is the director of the project. He actually shows up at these business owner groups to talk about progress on the project because it's something everyone is interested in. So if you're bringing speakers in who will be of interest to business owners, and you as the leader of the group, whether you speak or you're bringing a guest speaker, you're now the authority, the leader of that group. You're going to meet all of these different business owners and telecom directors, and there's your in to start selling them services. And the other thing I learned when I sold business phone systems in Las Vegas, I learned that the telecom directors at the casinos and hotels, they all know each other. So there's an endless network of referrals you can get, introductions you could get by selling your product to the people in each organization who handle it, and then find out who the others are throughout other organizations. Yeah, Joe made a good point. Thanks for your past recommendation of Fiverr.com. It's a great site, and they can assist in developing your 30-second commercial. I didn't even think of that for this webinar. Thank you. I just typed that in the chat box. Fiverr, very simply, is an outsourced website. There are sorts like Odesk and Elance and things like that where you can outsource work overseas for dirt cheap. as well as providers in the US and UK and Australia and other Western nations. But it's an outsourced site where every job costs $5, and I've had some YouTube videos made for $5 that were pretty fabulous quality. So just for fun, just to see what's available out there or what you can have done for you, you can even go to Fiverr and have somebody write up a script for a presentation on a topic you're not knowledgeable about. So, Joe, thanks for mentioning that, because Fiverr is just a killer website. Thomas said, "What's the price point most meetup groups charge?" Most charge absolutely nothing. The Glazer Kennedy meetup group that meets once a month, they charge $10 a month, but that's because it's a for-profit group for the organizer. So that's up to you if you want to do that. Sharon, I won't publicly say what you said, but I totally agree. Glenn says, "Being disabled, I experience challenges getting about." Not sure how to respond to that. I think maybe focus your networking online on LinkedIn and Facebook, but definitely make the effort to get out. As a result of an old running injury, I also have a handicap placard in my car, and there are just some days where I just can't walk and sit home with an ice pack because the ankles flared up. But so I know where you're coming from on that, but if you have a hard time getting around, I would focus on the online social networking and things like that. No, you mentioned it before, but what was the name of the book to make irresistible offers? In case you can't still see that in your chat box, let me type that in again. So there's that book. That is an absolute must read. You have to get that book, no question about. David says, "I'm targeting those that want to diversify as real estate focused on cash buyers." I would go to look for try to brainstorm and think of groups where the wealthy individuals will be. The three things I could think of would be well, off the top of my head, I'd say political groups. You get a lot of power players there, big money political donors who are also investors. I would look at business owner groups. Personal development groups are good because a lot of wealthy people with a lot of money to burn go to those groups. And I would look at venture capital and angel investor groups and go there on the premise that you're just there to kind of learn what it's all about, but talk to people and mingle and make introductions and create a good 30-second commercial that gets respect from the group and gets them wanting to talk to you. Christine says, "With Meetup, do you ask for RSVP in advance? If people can't make it, do you ask them to let you know?" Yes, that is how it works. All the groups ask RSVP either yes or no, because the restaurants always want a heads up on an approximate head count so they can know what room to put you in and things like that. Does it ever happen when no one shows up? I've never ever seen that happen, so I wouldn't worry about that. Congrats, Sharon. That's awesome. Over the course of this webinar, someone used, talk about taking action. Over the course of this webinar, Sharon actually got on Meetup and took over a group that the organizer dropped out of. So this webinar, it's not even over yet. We've got about a minute and a half to go, and someone has already become leader of a Meetup group. So that is totally awesome. Sharon says, "What do you think of offering Meetup attendees free webinars in addition to face-to-face?" I think that's a good idea, and I think you can use both Meetup as well as I would start either a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group. I know one of the meetups I attend has a Facebook group, and everyone is asked to join that, and then you can announce free webinars there so people can get it. Let's see here. I'm going to respond privately to this one. And there's my answer to that. I sell for a publisher specializing in etiquette books like golf etiquette, targeting pro shops, golf retailers. I'd find golf interest meetups. I mean, go where the golf people go where your target market goes, and that's going to be the best way to do that. And with that, I am just about, let's see, nameless. Yeah, Burke makes a good point. If you want to find wealthy individuals with money, political donations are public information. So you can go to internet websites and actually look at a map view and find out names and dollar amounts of donors to political candidates. So it's pretty awesome. So with that, before it kicks me off, we were at the end. Thank you, everyone. You will get the video replay, the PDF presentation, and my PDF report on the 25 social dynamics PowerPoints, body language, and voice control so that you can dominate every conversation, every sales appointment, and every networking group you go to. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing everyone on a future webinar.